Today on the Name a Better Duo podcast, we have Bileko Wissa Jr. Bileko is a stand-up comedian, actor, and producer based in Los Angeles, California. He produces the Bileko Wissa Show. Bileko has made appearances on Laugh with Africa on Amazon Prime and sketches on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Bileko is currently working on his first feature film titled B-Stroke Swag the Movie and is aiming for an early 2023 release. Bileko is also a part of Chocolate Sundaes' production and sketch team. He earned his master's degree in biomedical sciences with an emphasis on HPV/HIV co-infection and another master's in public health with an emphasis on urban health disparities from Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science. He is also a graduate of California State University, Northridge. Bileko loves the Los Angeles Lakers and misses Kobe Bryant. Welcome, Bileko.
There it is. Hey, there it is. You said it. There it
I'm
is.
sorry. We've been cracking up before this, and I just wanted to say the full name, and I wanted to make sure I was saying it right, taking it back to motherland, okay?
Yeah, you're right. You're taking it back. Good.
Jollof rice and fufu.
Okay, well, I'm not Nigerian. I'm Congolese. Jollof rice is good. No, they be beefing. Them and Ghanaians. I don't know why they got to get over this jollof beef.
Jollof rice. Man, I feel real ignorant right now.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Africa's huge. Remember, Africa's huge. 52 nations. Actually, 53 because
I didn't know jollof in the Congo.
No, I mean, like, we have, like, rice, but it's not like jollof or whatnot. You know what I mean?
What do you know?
Different kind of. That's a good question. It's probably kwanga, madesu, which is beans, pondu, which is like greens, fumbwa, which is sort of like greens with peanut butter. Yeah. Oh, it's lit. Oh, it's so delicious. But that kwanga is like fermented cassava root. It's a substitute of fufu. I love it. Oh, so good. You're in Maryland. My aunt's in DC. She's a good connect, man. Oh,
I know. I was supposed to come get some of that good food, but that's not.
That's neither here nor there. We're not even gonna bring that up.
Nor
there. Got to dress made everything. It's all good.
I'm sorry. We're gonna hop into this icebreaker. Bileko, ladies and gentlemen. Bileko.
I'm here.
We're gonna have a good time. He's a funny guy. And he told me that I actually might have a chance to stand up too. So this is going to be hilarious. But I like to always start off the show by getting to know the person. We're going to ask you a lot of questions about your career, what you do, but we want to know who you are first. Okay.
Yeah.
So first question I love to ask everyone. If you could hear any song again for the first time, that one song that is like it for you, what would it be?
First of all, I have 3 songs. Great question. 3 songs. I never thought about this. When the moment you sent that email, I was like, yo, this is incredible. 3. First one, Machiavelli Hail Mary or Tupac Hail Mary. Oh, yeah. It's the older, he's my first one, my him, Nas, Biggie, favorite rappers. But with Tupac, when you re-listen to that song, it kind of encompasses him in totality. He has a political aspect in there. He has a spiritual aspect in there. He has a gangster aspect in there. It's very, very a mythical song. It's sort of like, if you remember Nas One Mic, he was trying to do that with Hail Mary or whatever. But Tupac was in a different place at that time. It's very like, and he has like the church horns in the back, and then he's always talking to God. He's questioning God. It's like a duology. I think it's great. Second song would be Miles Davis, I Waited for You. I love jazz, so like, it's funny because I reheard it again after you sent that email. And I was like, dang, I forgot how dope that song was or whatever. And that's such a good feeling with music. Like when you can find a song that you liked and then you re-listen to it. The third, I don't know. I don't want to say Bob Marley, Don't Rock the Boat. It might be, there's a local producer out here in LA called After One. And he has a song called Sweet Caress, but he sampled it out of Estero. And Estero, it's like trip hop or whatever. Every time I heard that song again, I was like, man, it's like hearing it for the first time.
What's trip hop?
So trip hop is sort of like a fusion of like hip hop and jazz. A lot of like Eastern Europeans, Nordic countries, like in the mid 2000s, they like kind of fused like the essence of sort of like A Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul and jazz and made it like more modern. So like if you ever hear Kendrick Lamar's, excuse my language, Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, the sample of that song is a Swedish band. So those Swedish Nordic countries, they got like the essence of hip hop and modernized it with jazz. Oh yeah.
Oh, you're schooling me today. I'm definitely looking that up. It sounds like a vibe. It sounds like
so like, when Drake came in like 08, 09 and had like that whole lounge, that was a part of that whole era. Oh yeah, there's a lot of Eloquent, After One. um, what are they called? Boom Clap Bachelors. Like there's a lot of them. Roy Scott. There's a lot of them. But then it's like, oh, but then a lot of like now, I mean not now, but like it's always been like kind of like Americans. Like there's the Stro Elliott. He has like this fusion of like Marvin Gaye and modern, and he modernized it, and then he has like a Tribe Called Quest. It's really beautiful. It's a whole vibe. It's a whole thing.
I love this question because I have people from all different backgrounds, all different types of careers, but music is the one thing I feel like we all can
Oh,
agree on and unite on. It's one thing
yeah.
everyone loves, regardless of what type of music you like, it's the
Mhm.
one thing that brings us all together. So I love this
The,
question. Love your
the irony about it, Renee, not to cut you off, is like each artist that I just said was all rooted in American jazz. And American jazz is the most universal like genre like in the world. You know what I'm saying? In the world, think about it. Not like, oh, it's only in New Orleans and St. Louis and Chicago or Maryland. Like everybody around the world. You know what I mean?
or where?
Merlin.
Oh, okay.
That's
Maryland.
where you're from, huh? Merlin?
I'm from Maryland. But no, the instrumentation, you hear those instruments on a rock song, on a country song, on
Yeah.
trip hop,
Trip
everything.
hop, hip hop, everything. Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
it. So what is your favorite TV show or shows of all time?
Martin, Seinfeld, The Office, and The Cosby Show.
Why you smile when you say that?
Because, like, if you say anything like that, they think you agree with what he did, and it's like, no, 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 I like the show. Like you said,
I
like
feel
certain artists. Huh?
I feel like you were doing your Cosby impression just
Oh
now.
no, 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 no! I leave that on the stage. No, that's on the stage. No, no, all right now.
Um, no, Cosby Show will always and forever be a classic. You can't take that from it. I feel like people don't know how to separate the art from the person. It's
Yeah,
like you can't
that's
take away the classicness of that show.
no, it's real. Like for me personally, when the Cosby Show came out, it debuted in '84. My mom got here from Congo, and my dad told her watch the Cosby Show in between classes because they speak good English.
Mm.
So she watched the Cosbys, and my younger sister's named after Felicia Rashad. Her name is Felicia
Oh
because
no.
she was like Felicia. Yeah. So for us, let's fast forward. My mom went to a play Felicia Rashad was doing in downtown LA and met her and was just crying. Was like, "You helped me learn English."
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, I don't know if you know Debbie Allen. Clearly, you know her. Her son is a comedian. So I was in the green room with them, and I told him, I said, "You don't know how much your family's made an impact on my family."
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. So like they spoke, there was like in Africa at that time. This is before social media. It's like when you come to America, it's like, yo, I want to speak good English. So
Yeah.
watch the Cosbys. They speak perfect. They're black. They speak good English. Like, oh my
You're a
god.
doctor and a lawyer. What you
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the
You're going to be that. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. I love no. Debbie Allen is the producer of my favorite show, Different World. So
Oh, A Different World. My fault. That's top five. What are we talking about? Different World. I'm
one,
sorry.
one. I'm a comedy sitcom person too, so I'm here for
Yeah.
it. What shows are you watching right now?
It's crazy because being so busy. The last show I just finished was Ozark,
Hmm.
whatever, Power. And then even though this, I mean, it's not a show, but the podcast, Math Hoffa, My Expert Opinion. That's like the thing I watch all the time. I love he interviews everybody in rap and hip hop, and it's so like philosophical. It's so pure. It's pure hip hop.
What's his
And
name?
it's called Math Hoffa's My Expert Opinion. Like it's probably the fastest growing podcast on YouTube. It's incredible. He interviewed like the Guru that was around the sound engineer with Jay-Z. He had Jungle, who's Nas's brother, and they talk about it's so weird because Tupac and Biggie's story is so like mythical. There's an interview he talked about. He asked Jungle, Nas's brother, what happened when Tupac came to New York, and he was like, "There's like 30 on their side, 30 on the other side. Tupac and Nas meet in the middle." And Tupac said, "Remember, I told y'all years ago, I love y'all. Don't forget it." They shook hands and left. And he said, "Don't forget, I love y'all." That's the last word he said to him before he got killed. Tupac he's a whole. He's a whole. People are anointed, man. He's anointed.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the conversations around Tupac. I would listen to And Angie Martinez, her book, and she talks
Yeah.
about her interview with him when she was trying to like help squash the East Coast West Coast beef or whatever, and how she left out a lot of parts because she knew it would just kind of make the beef grow even more or whatever.
Right.
But people have such like great, like I don't just like so animated stories about him and
Yeah.
how he was. Like he was a character in a way.
Yeah. I mean, think about somebody's life from 20 to 25. Remember, he did everything, all this in 5 years, and he was in jail for 10 months. That's
Wow.
the epitome of like the ultimate form of like work ethic. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? You
And
know what
I
I
think
mean?
of him as Piccolo on a different world.
Pick Piccolo in a different world. Hey, who'd have thought he was what you call it on the show? People like, oh, it's him and Jada, but he was actually dating the Jasmine guy. It was great.
Was he?
Yeah, because when he got shot in the hospital, he was living in Jasmine guy's house after he got shot. He was like, I don't want to stay in the hospital, so he stayed with Jasmine guy.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's
Piccolo. It's,
Piccolo. I
yeah,
love
it's
it.
a small.
What's
Oh, because he went to because he lived in Baltimore before he went to Marin City, so that's why you're so Piccolo. Look at you.
no, he's from Baltimore. And it's so funny. I had this conversation with so many LA people. People from LA love to act like he's from LA and he's definitely from Baltimore.
Okay, well, first of all, time out. Let's time out. Time out. He's actually from New York. Remember, his rap name was MC New York. Let's forget that. Then he moved to Baltimore, and
Where do you
then
where you graduate high school is where you're from
that's ridiculous.
in my
In
book.
my view, you can't make these rules. We
No,
graduate.
very much. That is where you were raised. Like high school is your like your foundation. That is where you were raised. That's who you are. You're
So
from
people
Baltimore.
don't evolve.
Huh?
People don't evolve.
Evolve. You can't evolve past where you were raised. You feel me? Like he's from Baltimore. He went to school here. He's East Coast all day. So that like whole this isn't about him. We're here to talk about Bileko.
All right, let's go. Yeah.
Tupac's from Baltimore. So let's get into this conversation. First of all, you're my first comedian on here, I want to say. So I'm excited for you to represent for all the comedians today. I know,
Gang.
gang. What would you say is
Mhm.
the importance of comedy?
I think the important comedy is so in. It's very important, but I guess I would say this in life, the monotony of life is like you have to be serious. You have to, we're all trying to walk this line of being better or doing better for ourselves, our families, and our like significant others, right? So you're trying to do the best job of trying to do right, whether it's go to work, be responsible with your kids, and etc. The great thing about comedy is comedy gets to look at life and kind of look at weird things in kind of like an abstract way that we are not able to point out in everyday life because life is very serious, right? So I think when people go to a comedy club or watch a comedy show, it is sort of like the human's third eye of freedom to look at things like in a different way, in a comedic way, right? So whether you're making fun of like a person's relationship or how a person grows up or a person's significant other in comedy, or whether you get to curse and be loud and be boastful, it's sort of like it's almost like a spiritual, like kind of like freedom or exercise that I think more people need to like actually go and see comedy shows because it's like it's a stress reliever. You get to like laugh. We don't laugh enough in like sort of like in everyday life because life is hard, life is challenging.
Yeah. Do you
Mm,
think there needs to be a healthy balance between the two? Because what I noticed with a
mm,
lot of comedians is that they, like Kevin Hart has something called Laugh at My Pain. I feel like a
mm,
lot of comedians take their struggles and make fun of them. And
mm.
I don't know, maybe it's a form of therapy or maybe it's a form of avoidance. What do you think in terms of like, is there a healthy balance of like making fun of your issues and your pain and your struggle and like actually working through those things?
That's a first of all, it's a great observation. I always thought about the latter, how it's like laughing at yourself makes you more relatable because what happens is, and it's funny how it ties into Tupac, pain is probably the most common emotion we all will feel, right? Because there's How many billionaires are there? We all won't feel that, but we all will deal with pain and losses. So when you meet a comedian that gets on stage and he talks about, hey, I got divorced, I got cheated on, or I lost my job, that's very relatable to the human condition, right? It is also therapy too for the comedian because what else does he have to lose? Like I've lost everything in life, or in a sense. So if I go on stage and I talk about it, it doesn't make me like less than I already am, depending on what stage the comic is in. So it is both. It's a little bit of both. It's sort of like a yin and a yang. The real great ones, what happens is they'll talk about what they're going through. Like if you go back in time with like Bill Cosby and like Richard Pryor, when Richard Pryor started talking about how like he was on crack and he almost lit himself on fire. All right, they were like, wait, what? That's just he's being honest, and people respect that. You know, in our culture, we always talk about being real. People think real means like being like ghetto or hood. Real just means being honest. Because I'll get on stage and I say, I have $8 chains from Amazon. Don't jack me. They're like, yo, that's unheard of. For what cool black dude that has chains on says it's $8? We all talk about balling. I'm like, I'm not balling. All right, let's get that out the window.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Yeah, so let's be very clear. No,
Mm,
I say that too because I was just thinking with the example of Kevin Hart.
mm,
I've heard him on interviews before. People would say to him, like, you don't have any issue. He has his podcast where he interviews other comedians, and a lot of comedians have like dark past from just listening from his podcast. The ones he's
mm.
interviewed have dark past, and I think that their way of coping is to laugh or to make other people laugh. And they
Yeah,
ask him, like the experiences he had with his father being on drugs and not being around. And he's like, oh, I'm forgiven that. I'm fine. Da, da, da. And they're like, but are you really fine? Or
mm.
are you just like laughing through what you're feeling and maybe you're just going to explode one day, And I feel
I-
like that could be the truth for a lot of funny people.
very true. Like especially when I guess when you're on the come up, or it depends on where you are. Like how mature you are spiritually or how mature you are emotionally. Because like for me, for example, I believe in forgiveness, right? So like I can't the mishaps that I have growing up that have led me to become a comedian, like whether it might be how I grew up, my mom, my father dying, or stuff like that, you have to forgive. There's certain things you can't control, right? Because if you walk around with that bird, you can't get to whatever goal or whatever. Like I think comedy is like a gift from God. There's so many people that can't even say their name in front of like in the mirror. So to get up there in front of hundreds of people, or hopefully in the future we knock on wood millions of people, and to be private and public is a talent from God. So I have to use this because if not, I would be selfish. This is not even my gift. This is his gift. So I think when there's comics that say, "Oh, you're holding that grudge," I mean, yeah, that it's a part of you. It's what makes you. But then it's like, how do you have to grow? You can't. That's like Arrested Development. If you're like 10 years in and you're still like, oh man, I'm a comedian because of like, all this other stuff. And no, you gotta grow. Because that's not gonna be the same material you say in 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. Have you evolved as a person?
Yeah, that's good. No, that's really good. I think that comedians have to have a certain sense of vulnerability that is very like you have to be in tune with your feelings and like observant. I feel like comedians
Oh,
are the most observant people in the world.
I would I would say this, a comedian is a pseudo psychologist and sociologist. We study people all the time.
Mhm.
Right? You can manufacture a character. Like I talk about, like my uncle doesn't like that I'm not a medical doctor, but my uncle is only 20% of the character. The rest of it's my mom, the rest of the community. Then I'll embellish stuff for my own creativity, but I'll just label it my uncle because on stage I can be free, I can be creative, and I get to be vulnerable. Where this person is constantly putting me down, or but really he just wants better for me. But who doesn't have somebody like that in their life that makes him as this character so relatable, where people from all walks of life, oh man, your uncle, man, like that's
Mhm.
great. So you have two masters. Wow. Oh man, I was gonna be a software engineer, and it's like you make yourself more relatable.
Mhm. I want to talk more about that because I know that a lot of people in your shoes deal with the criticism and scrutiny from family on like, okay, you did all the right things, you know, you got the medical degrees and tell us a little bit about that, like your background and how your family felt about you choosing to go the opposite direction into comedy.
Okay, so I have a master's in biomedical sciences and I have a master's in public health. Um, my first master's in biomedical sciences, I worked on HIV, HPV, DNA double strand breakage. My second master's, I worked in urban health disparities. So I worked in like the way LA's broken down, service planning areas. I worked in the hood, right? And it had a high incident rate of catching HIV, HPV, and a high mortality rate compared to like, let's say like Venice or like Santa Monica or whatever. So that's my background. When they found out I was doing comedy, they were just like, wait, what? Like, because in Africa, so I'm from Congo, my family's from Congo. America has figured out how to monetize entertainment for the past 130 years, even from the what are those circuits where those white people will wear blackface and stuff like that, the vaudeville, right? Is that what you call it? So they figured out how to monetize entertainment for hundreds of years, like from like jazz in the late 1800s until now. Africa, in a sense, in my opinion, I think probably, and I'll just say Congo, maybe the past like 35, 40 years in music, because there's still great artists that are still walking around like the neighborhood in Congo where it's like, oh, I love this guy's song, but there's no record label there. The record labels are in Europe. That's a whole other thing. But when it pertains to like comedy, it's like, was you a clown? Like, because comedians back home are comedic actors in the, but actually, even the whole idea of comedy, late night, go to a dark room where people are smoking and drinking and cursing, that's witchcraft. Like, what? Right? So even I don't even in Congo, I don't even think there's a comedy club in Congo. That's actually one of my goals to like build a comedy. I don't even think there's a comedy club there. So it's like there's this like so I'm dealing with that, right? That misnomer or misconception of like, why would you do that? Because Eddie Murphy's Eddie, Dave is Dave. Nobody, the saying, nobody listens to nobody in the what is it? The prophet doesn't get the respect in his village or something like that. Have you heard that before?
Hear that one.
Okay, there's something about like nobody respects the prophet, right? The prophet has to always leave. So like even your own family,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, from where you're from, like your family
Yeah,
around you, because they know you. Like they say with Jesus, they say like he's like, ain't that Mary's son? Isn't that such and such brother?
yeah, yeah. There's like this is Mary's son. It's like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? So but over time, like, that's where your faith and your belief in yourself. So now it's like it's not that I don't care about their opinion, but that comes with comedy, right? And that's something with like confidence, right? Like once you have confidence in yourself, you have short-term memory. You don't care about what other people think because you're focused on a goal. And then over time, they just start to jump on board because they're like, oh, he really believes in himself. You know what I mean? But your friends and your family will never be your fans.
Mm. Mm.
They'll never be your fans. Like, you know what I mean? Like, for example, there's comedians that will send me their videos. They'll DM me. I'm like, why are you DMing me this? I'm not your fan. I'm your contemporary. Send me this. Your your objective is to get fans, people that are like that are looking for it. Your objective is like what? Like, if you're consistent enough and something piques my interest, oh, that's cool. I'll repost it. Cool, great. But that's not your goal. Your goal is not to make other comedians laugh. Your goal is to make normal people laugh. You care about me for?
Normal people.
Yeah, no, normal people with souls.
Yeah. So what would you say was the moment, or if there was a moment or just a period of time that you discovered that you were funny?
There's 3 moments. Before my dad passed away, I told him a story about a ninja. I was like 3 years old. My mom was pregnant with my younger sister. I don't know how I remember this, but I was doing stand up then. Because I stood up there sitting on the couch and I'm just telling a story about a ninja. 9th grade, I was in Spanish class. The teacher would put us up in front of the class, and to learn Spanish, she would make us say it in front of the whole class. So it was like, levanta la mano, raise your hand. And I would do it so funny. She would pull me to the side and be like, have you thought about doing improv? I was like, what's improv? She was like, Saturday Night Live, Eddie Murphy. I was like,
Never heard.
Improv is more of like a white sport in a sense, like to go to the school and stuff like that. So ninth grade, I was like, oh. In that same year, I had a substitute teacher. He was a struggling open mic comedian. He was like, "Hey, you're a comedian." It was so fun. Mr. Pippins, I'll never forget. You're a comedian. I was like, "What is that?" I was like, "No, you're funny. You're a comedian." So there was always these moments. And then when I went to Norfolk State, something just hit me. I was like, I think I need to do. No, before I went to Norfolk State, my friends took me to the Haha Cafe. As like going away like gift or whatever. Come on, let's watch some comedy. And I went on stage with King Kadar. He has this bit where he brings somebody on stage with him. And I was there on stage with him. I was like, this is really like nothing. And I ended up being just not as funny, but I was funny too. And I was like, I think this was something I want to do. So when I went to Norfolk State, I started doing research on like comedy clubs and stuff like that. And I was like, if I ever go back to LA, that's something to do.
Oh, that's so dope. I didn't know you went to Norfolk State.
Norfolk State, that's right. And I used to drive up to DC, not Maryland.
Okay, DMV, VA. Okay. I didn't know that
Mm.
at all. How do
Mm.
comedians make money?
Great question. There's many ways. The 1%, of course, clearly they make it on tour, movies, commercials, etc. Lower level comics or comics that are like on the come up or whatnot. They have social media. So social media helps out a lot. So when you see comics that are always posting their videos and stuff like that, Facebook, social media has allowed comics to make money before they get sort of like on or a big contract or whatnot. So social media, merchandise, shows, but shows really when you go on the road. Like we did a tour this past weekend. We were in San Diego. We did 5 shows that all paid, everything inclusive and stuff like that. That helps pay. But it's more so it's the independent route, sort of like rappers. New age comedians are sort of like or like kind of like old school rappers, where it's like I sell it out of my trunk. Where it's like we produce the content like yourself. We'll have shirts, we'll have logos, we create the website, and then we will independently slang our jokes online. So that's a good way how to make money. And then you build a fan base, and then maybe the important agents or agencies they come in and you pique their interest and then you just make more money or whatnot. But it's mostly like doing things independently.
Yeah. And that's with entertainment, period. Like you have to grind when the money's not there
All
before
right.
you really, really see the money, where
Right.
like posting before you're getting dollars, before you're getting paid for those posts. Doing comedy shows. I remember Steve Harvey tells his story about how he won an amateur night for $50 and quit his job, but $50 is not paying the bills. But that
Right.
it looks like sometimes at first, but the investment, the return on the investment can be well worth it over time. But I feel like with entertainment, it's such a huge gamble, which is why it's not for everybody. But it's also about that consistency. And we talk about that a lot on this show. And, like how hard it is to be consistent when you're not seeing the results yet. I feel like
That's why.
it separates the good from the not so good, or the strong from the weak.
But that's why I think it's like people that do this art. Like I'll just speak for myself. I'm always funny. I've always been funny. I'm not serious. I'm not a thug. I'm not hard. I'm a man, but I'm like I've always been funny. So like this is just it's anointed. Like it's just like this is just what the talent God gave me. Like to feel comfortable around strangers. That's a gift. So like people that you're always going to do this. Like Dave Chappelle's always going to be funny. So that's why it's like
But there's a
what
lot
it's like.
of funny people who couldn't pursue comedy. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that takes a different skill set.
yeah, because like I'll wait. Is that the next question?
Go ahead, answer that.
Okay, because you said you asked, can a funny person be a comedian? What is it? Because I love it. What is it? What's the question?
I don't remember what I asked, but that's a good question. If I wrote that down, it's great.
No,
Can a funny
now
person, can every funny person pursue a comedic career?
no,
You got
because
some
I
funny
think it's
uncles that ain't gonna get up on nobody's stage and kill it.
no because every great or funny stand up comedian is a funny person. Every funny person is not a stand up comedian.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's different kinds of funny. There can be funny the person that snaps back or he's always clowning somebody and it's like okay that's funny, but they don't know how to translate the science on stage. Because
Mm-hmm.
after a while, you can't just snap back. What are you gonna snap back at the audience for like an hour? It takes a special skill. You got to be like Corey Holcomb, where you can talk about women and men, and they understand like, okay, this is what he's giving us. Or Patrice O'Neal, the great Patrice O'Neal. All
Mm-hmm.
right, but because it's easy to be Eddie Murphy sitting down, right? Have you ever seen like a? You go into like meetings where like even when you say church, for example, the pastor's talking or somebody's making announcements and then they make like a little joke and everybody starts laughing. You know why it's really funny? Because there's no expectation of them being funny. When you
Mm,
see a stand-up comedian, there's an expectation. You better make me laugh. And
yeah,
the actual nuance of it is like not caring that you're funny while caring being funny.
that's good. That's so good.
Mm.
I couldn't imagine. I think that's again why every funny person can't do it, because people are sitting there like,
Bring it. Make me
"What?
laugh.
Make me laugh." That's
Make
all.
me
That's all I'm waiting for you to do, and I want you to make me laugh until I cry.
laugh.
And are mad when you don't. you
Right.
know.
That's why comedians are some of the toughest people in entertainment because they're kind. You brought up the word vulnerable. Every night, every time they perform and they're working on the material, it doesn't always hit. When you see a special, that's so many hours of that comedian, female or male, working on a joke, working on a bit where, oh, it didn't work in Ventura, it didn't work in Dallas. Okay, I figured out how to say it in Houston. I figured out how to say it in Atlanta. Okay, let's put it together. It's a puzzle. And then when you see the finished product, you're like, they're hilarious. It's like, well, I had to fail so many times to succeed. Like
That's
it's
good. That's good too. I don't mean to cut you off, but like that's a whole nother skill set that a lot, I'm sure, new comedians don't even think about. It's like I have to be able to shift with the atmosphere, and the
oh,
location and where I'm at, and a lot of local
oh,
comedians who only get up in New
bro,
York and do comedy in New York may not realize that what they say there doesn't work in Houston.
bro, let me tell you something. When you go to different cities, I mean, you're gonna add. You have a question about hosting. I'll wait till we get to that question, but there you have to because if you're different rooms, man, apply to different jokes. Like if you're like, let's say you're in a hood ass room, right? Me talking about having all these degrees, they don't need to hear all that,
Right.
right? They maybe later in the set, but come out hot, man, get this corny nigga out of here. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to hear that, right? Right? And you like, but it's different than like a hipster room, or it's different than a LGBTQ room. It's different than a Latino room. It's like
Mhm.
you have to learn and you have to like adjust and you have to pay attention. Like I featured for Keenan in Sacramento and I was like, all right, what is it about Sacramento? So while we're driving, I'm doing research. Like, what's the hood part of Sacramento? There's I think this portion called Richmond. So I get up there on stage. I was like, yeah, I had these chains, and I went to Richmond looking for some nice black people. The crowd was like, what? I said, yeah, them niggas, but they pulled out some guns. They said, give us those chains. So you know, you become relatable. There's little psychological tricks that you learn because you watch great comics. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
You know what I mean? It's a lot. And a lot of comics, there's the 1% go anywhere because they want to just sharpen that iron. But a lot of comedians, they're terrified. They'll just stay in their pocket, and then I was like, that's not how you grow.
Wow, that's good. That's good. Do
Mm.
you feel like that's like a form of code switching though? Like you saying that I'm not talking about the degrees here because they don't want to hear all that.
Well, not to jump because they don't know who I am.
Yeah.
So once they get comfortable with me, like I did Chocolate Sundaes, and Chocolate Sundaes when I came in, and I was like, they played the music. I was like, cut the music or whatever, and I don't know what I said. I said I don't know, you figure out a way to make yourself relatable. The host before me asked people where they were from, and somebody said Belgium. I'm from Congo. So I was like, oh, Belgium, they colonized Congo. So I got on stage and I started speaking Lingala for like the first like minute. So I'm on
Mm.
stage, I'm talking, and I was like, yo, forgive me, Death Row versus Bad Boy. Like we get along, but we don't get along. Everyone's like, oh, this is funny. And then when I talked about, oh no, I have these degrees and blah 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 this, because I am smart. It's not my responsibility to make you feel comfortable. Like I have this education. Like it's not right. So you just figure out when to land it on them, but they have to because you don't want to talk at them. You want to talk to them.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
good. No, I was just thinking that because I think of too, I watch a lot of interviews, but Miss Pat, from the Miss Pat
Mhm.
show, she talked
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah,
her first audience was mostly white people, and Miss Pat is hood as it comes. Like
yeah. Right.
So to like, I mean, I didn't see those stand-ups, but I'm like, I wonder if she do the same material with them that she does on BET Plus,
Mhm.
because
Right.
that's some hood material. But like people love realness, I feel like.
I was
And
about to say that.
that's what
Ooh,
comedy is like the more authentic, the more laughs you're gonna get.
like, so side note, I'm on 2 improv groups. I'm in Bernie Mac and Cheese. There's 9 of us, 5 women, 4 dudes. We all covered the whole diaspora of the whole diaspora. So East Coast to South, um, women, mothers, fathers, whatever, right? But it's clearly black. Right? My second group is B rolls. Me and it's a 2 man. Me and my boy Patrick. We play like 36 characters on stage. But at West Side, where we're a house team, they love Bernie Mac and Cheese because it's like, no, we're real. We don't. There's a lot of improv groups, and I'm not taking any shots. There'll be black bodies, but with white souls, right? Whereas like us, it's like, no, 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 we black. You're just because we practice so much. It's like you're going to if you've never seen improv, you'll be like, okay, I like improv because of them.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So for Miss Pat, she's probably just real.
Hmm.
Every people, regardless of whatever culture, you always respect real and honesty.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So let's get into the hosting question because you do host a
Yes.
comedy night.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Is that a different skill set doing
Oh,
hosting
completely.
versus stand up?
Great. First of all, let's give Renee a round of applause. These are some great questions. These are some great
I
questions.
have a journalism degree.
Oh, this is good, good, good. The degree is going to whack. No, now great question. Yeah, hosting is a completely different skill because hosting is you're an extension of the audience.
Hmm.
So you have to set the table for the comedians and give the audience a good time, and the show is not about you. Like when you're doing your set, if you're a comic on the lineup, that moment, that time, it's about you. But as a host, it isn't about you. It's
Yeah.
about you setting up the comedians to succeed. So, for example, setting the rules, like, hey, no heckling, don't pull out your cell phones, let's respect the integrity of the comedians, the bathrooms here. If you're working at a club or a restaurant, hey, tip those waitresses, or something like what you call it, we have drink specials. When the owner hears that, oh, he's making me money. Because no disrespect, the comedy club doesn't make money off jokes, they make money off drinks. It's about that alcohol,
Mhm.
right? And having people, unless you're doing like a theater. But and then also depends on the headliner. If the headliner says, I don't want you to do crowd work. I don't want, there's different rules. So if as long as you follow the rules of what the headliner wants, that is your job as the host. And the important thing about being a host is you should watch every comedian that's performing because you can find a tag. You're an extension of the audience. You create the party environment. Isn't it great when a comic says something about, oh, and my girl left me, and then the host comes up and they'll be like, yeah, of course she left him. Have you seen his shirt? And everybody starts like, look at Martin on Def Jam. Martin is one of the best hosts ever because
Mhm.
Martin is present. He's present because he's watching. There's some terrible hosts. A comic goes up, they go outside, they smoke a cigarette, and then they bring up the next person and be like, "Do you not just know what happened? This guy made a fart sound." Or there's a lady in the crowd that has a crazy laugh. You got
Mhm.
to be present. It's
Yeah.
creating because you'll. The great thing about comedy or live performance is you'll never get the same performance twice. So
Mhm.
you're giving the audience a moment.
That's good, man. Being present, because honestly, those are the moments when you like. I feel like every comedian, Dave Chappelle does this very well, where he'll bring back the joke from the beginning of
Oh,
the
callback, yeah.
and I feel like that's what people love because it's like I don't know, like people love that relatability and just like, oh, you
Hmm.
saw that happen, I saw that too, like oh my goodness, like
Right.
kind of like when you see a friend, you and a friend see something and you like both instantly laugh, like that's kind of what that is when people are able to read the room.
Yeah, and you look like a genius. Like I remember there was one show we did. It was a mostly black lineup I hosted, and there was a white girl from Tennessee that was on the show. She was very funny, and she made this joke about how she got arrested by the cops 3 times. This is like an 85% black room, and I was like, oh. So I'm in the back. I take notes whenever comics talk. I'm like, oh, I can tag this, or whatever. And when I brought her, I came when she was done with her set. I said, "Hey, look, it was great. You got arrested by the cops 3 times, but have you died?" Niggas in the crowd just a row. You
Mm.
can't. You never duplicate it. She set me up. It would be, I would be an amateur if I don't address it. A white girl complaining to black people about the cops. I was like, what? You got to. You
Yeah.
got to.
Yeah.
So there's like those moments, but you brought up something about being present. Like comedy is creating a reaction, acting is reacting, improv is all of that, but being present. Because in improv, you write on stage.
Mm.
Like,
Mm.
yeah.
That's a whole nother toolbox.
Oh, I love it. Improv is incredible. Yo, if you in LA see Birdie Mac and Cheese, oh, we're going to Sketchfest in January.
Where's that?
Does in San Francisco. That's like sort of like just for laughs for improv. It's a huge deal. Oh, I can't believe we got
Oh,
in.
congrats. That's
Oh,
awesome.
oh, we're coming in so hot. Oh,
I
so
love
hot.
it. I love it.
Uh,
So, how long have you been doing improv? Has it been the same amount of time as comedy, or?
no, stand up 14 years, improv 10.
Mm. What do
Yeah. Huh?
you love more?
It's like two kids. I don't love one more than the other. They each help each other out.
Mm-hmm.
Like because improv is like the whole idea of yes anding and improv, it helps you out tremendously because it just allows your creative trains to like go. Like just this past week we did a presentation at LA Trade Tech.
Mm-hmm.
For there's like this program. One of my improv group members, she's a counselor at Pasadena City College. So she got us like this like performance for all these like colleges that want to like hire us to like teach improv. Just like, hey, improv can help you up like in your work life, help you out with your students or whatever. So I was performing. Somebody labeled me a sorcerer. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna be a sorcerer. I started like fake flying, making all these noises. So I ran across the room and yelling, and they're just like, yo, what's happening? I said, it's improv. You label me, I'm gonna exaggerate it. It just helps the creativity, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just helps. Stand up is just
I'm sure it
stand up.
helps. I'm sure it helps with your stand-up even, because with
Oh
improv you have to be quick on your toes, and in comedy you have to be quick on your toes.
no, that's the thing with being present. Something happens and you have to address it. Like
Yeah.
some girl with a crazy laugh, a bald headed dude in the crowd. I'll be like, hey brother, you and me, we won. You know what I'm saying? It just makes you present and it helps you like be yourself. Like you'll see comedians, some comedians will stay in pocket because they don't run away from they're married to their material. They haven't found their voice yet.
Yeah. Remember
Where
that show that Bill Bellamy used to host? Who Got Jokes? Remember that?
yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. And they would always have someone heckle the comedian,
Yeah,
like the second round or something like that. And that
yeah,
would kind of separate who won from who didn't, was the one
yeah,
who handled that well.
yeah. And it's great too because with that, where I don't like to make it racial, but that's why like the top tier comics, like black comics, you the skill you're able to develop because those hood rules, like I love it. Like it's not hood, but I remember I did a forgive me, a hood church room in Inglewood. It was so great. It was great. There was like 400 people in the church. It was great. This is a mega church. I was like, oh, this is lit. You can't curse. So there's two challenges, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't curse one, and two, how do you relate to because they like
I
praise
didn't
Lord,
really
praise Lord.
in a hood room and can't cuss. Like
Yeah, it was like, yeah, there it is. But you make it work. That was one of the best performances, man. That was great. And a lot of it was the improv because you were the presence of like there was some lady that like loved it. She was just laughing. She loved the African stuff. Oh my goodness, yeah. All y'all is engineers. Oh, it was great, man. And I said, look, it's Sister Jones. I was like, look, Sister Jones. She helped me write that joke outside. She was like, I didn't see him at Bible study on Wednesday, Terrence. And the pastor was there. His name is Terrence. It was great. But that type of freedom that comes from like that's the improv where you can be present. Like, what is happening right now?
is that
Trust yourself.
is that the toughest room you've ever played?
No, I think probably the toughest room was the first show I did. I did a show at South Central, and I had a joke about ninjas. It was my first show. And there's some dude, there's a gang member in the front row. He was like, man, get this nigga out of here. That was great, man. That was great. Oh, it's so wonderful, man. This nigga's weak, man. Get him out here, man. Get out here. That was great. I love it.
God. See, and for you to say I love it, like I feel like you have to have a certain level of self-esteem already to do stand-up.
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
I'm way too sensitive.
No, you know what's funny? You just have to like, if you wanted to do it, um, write, watch, study, like the same stuff I did when I started, the same stuff I do now. I watch shows. Like Monday, we have Bernie Mac and Cheese. We have an improv show, but after the show, we go to the jam. We watch other improv shows. You're always constantly watching to get better. You watch stand-up shows. You know, whether it's somebody famous or somebody local, they'll be like, "Oh wow, I have a dad. Oh wow, I like how he said his dad joke. I can figure out something of my own. You know, I can figure out something about how I grew up, my relationship jokes and stuff." It's just, it's. I spoke to Donnell Rawling like a month ago. He was at Laugh Factory, and I'm like, "Hey, huge fan. What you call it? I'm rich, right?" And I said, "Is there any tips you can give me?" He said, "I've been doing it 30 years, and I'm still learning. It's
Mm,
always on. It's always ongoing." He said,
yeah.
"I'm still learning." You know what I mean? So if you're willing to learn, but in order to willing to learn means you don't have an ego, because that means you don't know everything.
Mm, that's
Right?
that's the word. That's the
Mhm.
whole word. Do you think that it's something that you'll always do? You think you'll always come back to stand up?
Oh yeah, no matter whatever happens in life, marriage, kids, I'll always do it because it's a freedom. It's to be on stage and be able to like express yourself or have like an idea and you can like that connection. There's nothing like that connection. I wonder how a musician feels, how a rapper, how a singer feels, or how and be a athlete feels when they do a performance and people just love them. I
Yeah,
think that there's nothing like that connection. Because when
yeah,
people come up to you after a show and they're just like, "Man, you were great. You were so funny." You don't even know for whatever time you did, you took them away from whatever they had to think about.
yeah.
It's
That's it
really,
for me. Comedy to me is the best, like you said, gift on earth for people to be able to like relate to you and laugh. I feel like laughter is the best gift you can give someone. You
oh
know,
yeah,
but there's been so many times where I was in a rut or I was in a dark place and I just turned on some stand up or I turned on an episode of Martin or and that just I turned on YouTube and just watched a clip of somebody being silly and it just helped. It's therapy,
no, it is.
it's the cheapest therapy there is. It's the best medication there is, but I could only imagine like being able to do that day in and day out and give people those laughs. It has to be such a great feeling. It's so rewarding, I'm sure.
Hmm. It is. It's like it's very rewarding, very very rewarding.
Okay, so we got to know you. Who are your top 5 comedians?
It's great. Eddie Murphy, Dave Chappelle.
I don't always like doing favorite lists because I feel like that's comparison. However, I definitely have a top 5 for comedians. I feel like that's one that's like
Richard Pryor, Martin. Oh wait, so stand. Oh
because for me, I have comedic actors and then I have
yeah,
stand up. For me, that's two
right.
things.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like, okay, I'll say stand up. Lavelle Crawford could be number 4 stand up.
So Martin's not on the list for stand up.
He would be in my top 10, but
Okay,
5.
I get
Okay,
you.
hold on. Like comedic actor, he might be one.
He's number one for a comedic. Him and Eddie are like tied for me for
Yo,
act.
let me tell you something. Between 1993 and 1996, I think Martin, his characters.
Just on
Now we.
just on characters alone, just the ability to
Oh,
just for Eddie to sit at the table and be 9 of the characters at the table, like you to go.
let me tell you something, man.
Yeah.
And I say this respectfully. Martin is a great show. The writing is great, but we know the show is great because of Martin. Like the way he was just going off with Dragonfly Jones and just kept.
Worked like crazy to make that show what it was. If it wasn't for him being 25 million characters, it wouldn't be the show that it is.
He's so good. Gina and Pam started acting like him in the show.
Pam is Martin. Even now, today, you see her like on The Neighborhood and like anything else that she's on. It's like
She's Martin.
that's Martin, you know.
She's Martin.
And they
That's
said
like,
that even in the reunion, they talked about how they just wanted to make him laugh and try to. He taught them so much, and they
he
did.
was.
They mimicked him, but in a great way. Yeah.
It's funny because he might be like underrated because he's like as an actor he's probably an 8. A stand-up is probably a 9. His characters are probably a 10, and then his hosting is a 10.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, comedic actors. Jamie Foxx is 3rd.
Oh, I didn't even think about. I never put Jamie in the conversation, but first of all, he is like a freaking unicorn. He does everything.
Yeah, because that's the thing. He's like LeBron. He's above the. He's like Jordan. He's above the sport.
What can
Right?
he?
Like there's like, come on, like
Yeah.
Jamie, what?
Yeah.
And he can sing too.
You kill at drama and comedy. You
And he can sing.
you play the piano. Like, what don't you do? It's ridiculous.
I gotta work on. This just lets me know how much work I gotta do.
Yeah, pick up an instrument. Do you play?
It's funny because I think that I said Lavelle, Eddie, Dave, Bernie Mac.
Yes. Yes.
Who's my 5th stand-up?
Bileko.
No. I never. I'll get. You know what's great about doing it? You'll never see yourself on stage.
Oh, that's true. You don't watch tape? Like
I mean, I do all the time, but I'm just saying, like, you'll never be a fan of yourself. Let me say somebody that's up and coming, or somebody that's like next up. There's a dude out of Texas, Devin Clark. Every time I see him perform, I just cry. Devin Clark. Just have fun. I just say Devin Clark.
Okay.
He's the comedian's comedian.
I'm gonna look him up.
Yeah. I say Sean Grant. Sean Grant's my number 5. Sean Grant.
Okay.
He's in my group, Bernie Mac and Cheese. I'm like, bring Sean to my top 5. I'll be like, hey, don't say that.
Okay. That's good stuff, though. Can we see your stuff anywhere?
Yeah, YouTube, Bileko Wissa Jr. I will be posting stuff. I'm adamant once January hits, I want to focus on YouTube, Facebook. You can Instagram me. I always post clips up there, sketches. Yeah, this next year, this is gonna be a real big year next year.
It's been a big year this year for you. I'm proud of all the wonderful things that you're doing. I see you. I know you're crazy. You're tired. Yeah.
You said what?
So you're tired like I am, but you penciled me in. I appreciate you.
No, I'm grateful. Vice versa. You work real hard, Renee. I'm a fan. Whatever I can do to help and support, you got me. Yeah, I'm just thankful.
Me too. Well, thank you for being here. This is such a great time. If you're in LA, where can they see your shows?
Every Monday I'm at Westside Comedy doing improv. Just follow me on Instagram because I have shows sporadically, like whether it might be at the Laugh Factory, it might be at the Comedy Chateau, it might be random places. I have shows in Santa Barbara, San Diego. No, just Instagram. Instagram me.
He gets around. He's booked and busy. Okay, so just follow him on the Instagram and all the social medias to find out what he's doing.
Yeah, follow me.
Thank you again for being here. It was such a pleasure. I appreciate you and your time. Thank you everyone for watching or for listening. And be sure to come back next week, same time, same place, to the next podcast. I'm Renee Nicole. Have a blessed week.